Alright, so me doing another video complaining about life and being neuro-target again. This kind of torture, this kind of, you know how it is. So again, this might look crazy for the people now, but for the future, it's gonna be eventually something that will be obvious because more people will be aware of the technological advances that right now are hidden. So what I experienced, I want to describe what's happening to me just recently, 3 days ago. 3 days ago was an update again, and this kind of technology right now is allowing me to speak, but it can modulate accent, it can kind of inject words. They might look sometimes as Freudian slips, or sometimes they will try to complement or complete a sentence. Still, this completion by words is always not chosen by me, but rather is the, let's say, the technology, the AI, changing some words as vectors towards whatever purpose is programmed. Usually, when I record these videos, I'm allowed to do it. So it means that whoever is in control of this technology consciously knows that I'm able to do this. Whilst if I'm on the street, if I'm speaking with someone, if in most of the other settings during the day, except the times I point that happened during the video, I'm not allowed to speak properly. And so, let's say right now, it's making me kind of cough or something, but yeah, and I also got flu. But the modulations are also very fine, very, very fine. Like the precision is as, let's say, thin as a brain nerve. And so you will have thousands of connections per millimeter in a brain. And it seems that this technology is able to precisely pinpoint all those thousands of connections per millimeter. And so what I experience is only, let's say, a tiny proportion of what this technology can do. Like seriously tiny. I complain a lot, but it's because this technology is brutal. But the brutality of what this technology could do has not been seen by humanity yet. That's 100% assurance. No one has seen that. So they are also using this kind of technology, mix it with swarm technology. So this means that wherever I go, I hear the people saying words depending on what I'm thinking. But these words are not conversational. These words is a set of chosen words that precisely have a vector, have a direction to a goal. I feel that a lot of the intelligence community will know this by now. Let's say if you have an operator that can see my thoughts because I just talk in my mind, thing that I'm not used to do before this year. It was recently that they modified my brain just to technically continuously be speaking in my mind. Then they will be able to read because this technology allows that by extracting just the electronic or electrical fingerprint from the neurological connections as I speak. Then that will be some of the operators. Other operators might see what is injected in my brain, but the operators that read my brain, they not know what was injected and what is myself, because they will only have the lecture of what is readable, they don't have the lecture of what was injected. Yeah, so let's say this technology kind of um, stimulates certain kind of language when it's read, when it's read as well by the electromagnetic frequencies. Then the fingerprint won't be able to distinguish what was written and what is simply activated by my consciousness. Okay, so uh, then well, that's one of the situations. In the long term, it's very important to assure that this is probably the ultimate kind of addiction for power. So before you would be able to create slaves, put them chains, lock them, but they were always in descent. They were always uh, knowing that there should be something better, that they should not suffer. They will have also this opposite reaction to suffering. This technology also allows to have a kind of sweet spot in which you are punished, but at the same time you keep living. Yeah, my daily life consists in going out with my support workers, visit different places, and technically I'm just extrapolating in my mind. And when I walk on the street, I can see that people uh, say words that are related with what I think, but this is a common effect depicted by people who have the diagnosis of schizophrenia and also people who consider themselves as target people or target individuals. This is also consistent with the people who says that they are mass gun stalkers or something like that. The gun stalking target people. This is also consistent with some kind of incel situations or things like that. Uh, One of the problems is that people is not distinguishing what is induced and what is not, and this is creating a fake reality. Then, yeah, I know this, especially well related with why I know that the people is saying these words. I've been training myself to distinguish what I hear from what is being in my head, and this is really difficult to get because you have to really be extremely sensitive, especially in your hearing. And I was lucky. I started to learn music when I was 14, and then yeah, I've been able to kind of have a little bit of training in my ears just to distinguish um, yeah, like, different tonalities and whatever vibrations related with sound. So I think this is a kind of average. I mean, my hearing is not that sophisticated, but it's a kind of average. At least my skill level is average of any musician, yeah, or below average. I don't consider myself having like a kind of special kind of hearing compared with any musician. But then, what it means is that people on the streets, they had been already kind of hijacked, not mind controlled, I would say, but they might not be aware when their words just come out of their mouths. So this can work in several ways. Maybe they are kind of stimulated in the way that they will be pushed to drop certain words. One thing to notice is that the last update does not drop a few words by itself. It can really complete full sentences, which is full sentence, full complex sentences. It's not one word that triggers. so, so then when I walk on the street and I see, or I hear also the people saying the words, well, Some of the words come because they are been in my head. Some of the words are related to what people is speaking. So let's say I could see someone speaking, look at their lips, and then I will look somewhere else and I will continue hearing them. But now this hearing, if I'm not looking to them, is digitalized. So it is being straight in my auditive system. And I know because I've done several kind of testing in which I can notice that even when I think is certain person who is speaking, and I definitely can distinguish the voice, the tone of the voice, the intonation, and all the features that distinguish the color of the voice of that person continue as voices, but these voices are not the ones that I see coming from the mouth of the person, as I'm not seeing the person. So it means that if I'm walking on the street, sometimes I will hear the persons because I will see their mouths saying the words that I say, so that sometimes are related. No, most, I didn't say sometimes, that's the AI right now. But I will see the people speaking the words that are related to what I call, as these small chosen words as vectors to guide somewhere, or it's a kind of violent inculcation by force of repetition. Then some of the words are spoken by the people without them realizing, and some of these words are spoken by people who have already been or has or belongs to a kind of, let's say, intelligence agency, or they sign an oath, or they know what's going on, but they don't know what's the context at all. They allow the words to come out, but they have no idea what is the context whatsoever, or at least for the person that is target. Remember that most of these people who is target believes in conspiracies, crazy things, and as I say, I was target just before I went to Slovenia, living with my ex-girlfriend. I think because I was a refugee, I applied for a visa of refugee, um, and before leaving the country, because my visa was not granted, then technically what happened is that they rushed my visa. 2 weeks later, the 5th of April 2018, they rushed my visa. Then they this 11 days after, the 16th of April, my ex-girlfriend got an aneurysm, and during that time I was already experiencing the attacks of neuroweapons. And then what happens is that in 1 year time, well, and then I will be going to recurrent hospitalizations until I got locked under the uh, was never violent because I was never doing anything stupid. I was able to reduce that to 2 months, but I stay in the mental health system for about a year. But well, that's another situation. But technically, my visa was rushed. My ex-girlfriend got an aneurysm, and I got locked in a mental health hospital. Yeah, that's what happened. And during the time my ex-girlfriend got the aneurysm and I got locked in the mental health hospital, during that year, over a year, then all the voices were follow a pattern. As I say, the voices give you a direction and also a kind of force depending on the psychology. It's not a situation in which if I want to guide someone to a tree, I just say go to the right, go to the left, continue straight. Now let's say I will try to do something in which a person maybe will try to be lovable with the others, then I imagine that they will put a prompt like make this person hear beautiful things, in which the person is encouraged to help the others, and the person will feel the desire to contribute to others, even when he has not been given anything. So try to create the words so he will be altruistic, etc. Then the person most likely will start to hear things like uh, you are so kind, uh, you are a beautiful soul, I'm happy to see you again. And the person will start to hear that continuously, and this person will start to give, because it's already pleasurable to make other people pleasurable, even if this has been artificially created by both the voices that create the effect. But the opposite was happening to me. I will hear initially things that will say that I'm weird, that I'm serious, that I'm belligerent, and then I will also hear things uh, like I'm gross, stupid, that I was sad, that yeah, I will be, I will be hearing things like sometimes I will have conversations with people in which there will be misunderstandings. The people around would not know that they were repeating those words because they were not conscious of this technology. Uh, I will hear things that would be mainly to isolate me initially. After the isolation was done, then it was a period in which they really tried to create hate. So then it will be between a mixture of enhanced interrogation. So there must be several kinds of enhanced interrogation techniques, from torture to more subtle ways. But definitely, this is a collection of everything. Uh, but also, I will feel that they will continue pushing certain words, yeah, and I will feel that they will try to push me to conspiracy theories, and I will feel that they will try to always relate things with bombs, uh, with terrorism. Let's say the wars itself are are there, like bombs, terrorism, and things like that. So they will push words. So let's say my social media will become extremely violent. I will in 2019. I will 2018 too. I will see a lot of UFC fights, but just crazy. I have never been a fan of UFC. But then I will also be mindful of the algorithm. But the algorithm is, I mean, for me, it's one of the best achievements that I have done so far. Because when I started to use Facebook, I was super naive about, let's say, technology, the companies. I didn't know the links between USA, multi-billion-dollar companies and the military-industrial complex. I did not know that perhaps uh, it will be possible to influence things or people, and in subtle ways. I thought that the algorithm will be something that will work as in early 2000s. No, what was that? I don't know, 2007, 2006, in which you will have Facebook and you will see technically all what's going on with your friends. And there is used to be a point in which you couldn't see anything else, because then you will repeat to see the same post of your friends. Slowly, they start to push advertisement. Slowly, you start to discover new posts, new people. Nowadays, it's not that's the same algorithm for everyone. These algorithms used to be very mechanized, just a formula. Then the algorithm start to become sophisticated, because this formula will be, let's assume, per country, then per language, per country, then per, let's say, ethnicity, country, language, and then they start to minimize, and nowadays every single person has a dedicated algorithm, AI power. Yeah. And depending on the context, then I do believe what happened to me is that someone will place a prompt from whatever is the, let's say, PsyOps division, or whatever is the, let's say, the military agreement that they would have, in which they would say, okay, just push things in which, let's say, if I would reverse engineer my algorithm as a prompt, knowing that it's possible to create a prompt, and then from the prompt create an image from the prompt, because I also know how the um, let's say GPT and also LLM transformers technology works. So then in images, in words, etc., and let's say if that's translated to social situations or outcomes, as real world outcomes, then if I were to reverse engineer the amount of violence that I was seeing, I would say that it would be something like the individual most developed in the short term, depending on, but well, let's say in the most difficult time, that was about 1 month or something. But remember, I stayed days or a year without sleeping properly. So now I was on average sometimes in which week after week I would just sleep 8 hours per week, 7 hours per week. This is 1 hour or less than 1 hour per day. Right now, I'm afraid that this is starting again. Well, the situation is that, well, in the prompts will be something like that. Endorse through images the act of belligerence, induce stimulation, electronic stimulation. I'm talking about electromagnetic means in which certain parts of your brain will be stimulated whilst you watch the post, in which violence will start to become a core feature of the, let's say, innate behavior. So try to create violence as the standard mode of fight or flight. Then the person, instead of flight, which should always fight. And every time the person gets terrified, the person will try to be violent. And for that, you will show them different kinds of violence. So from sports, from terrorism, because I used to, once I was surfing, in, let's say, my algorithm, and this is specifically at that time in Facebook, I used to not have Twitter, then I will see UFC videos one after the other, one after the other. I have the I have the I mean, I download my data from Facebook, so I see here in my computer. I hope nothing happens to my computer. I probably will send that data, save it, send it to the police and also different intelligence agencies. So maybe there is something there. In the other hand, yeah, I was looking to different posts, just scrolling. Some of them will be UFC fights. Some of them will be animals being violent, eating. There will be a lot of blood in these scenes. And some of the posts were related with direct terrorism. So they will be like advertisement of. It will look like propaganda from the, but it was the Islamic State propaganda. So I will randomly just find that, but I was not following anything related with Islamism, anything related with the Islamic State, nothing. So that was super random. That that happened is when I knew, oh shit. And I start to see that is when I remember, oh shit, they call the people who do terrorism lone wolves. I'm isolated. I have no friends around. I'm living with people that I don't know. I have no money, and I'm seeing a lot of violence in my feet. What the hell is this a psyop? And I'm hearing voices, and I'm paranoid, and I cannot sleep. So this is what it is to be a lone wolf. Yeah. So lone wolf most likely is not people who get into a certain belief. They probably target people like me with certain uh, autistic traits, and they will explode the autism because for us it's more difficult to recognize a context in which we know in every person's sets of mind, yeah, how a situation will, let's say, evolve socially, and it's more difficult for us to discover every single person's sets of mind, and we obviate or we don't see or we cannot do like read, we cannot read some well, a lot of the social clues. Yeah, so we can stay years without reading a social clue unless it becomes literal. Then, yeah, people who is uh, autistic is or have certain autistic traits is more likely to be targeted, and there is also certain kind of societies that are more autistic than others. This is also related with high context, low context societies. And in between every single society, you will have high context and low context social classes, or high context and low context social fields as well. Then uh, this is also related to no, it's not just the capacity of a person to understand, it's also mainly coming, let's say, from this kind of English uh, speaking countries, descendants of the English tradition, especially that relate to everything related with the DSM-5. You will see that through time some of the mental illnesses has been weaponized that continue happening, especially because anything in the DSM-5 can be replicated with electromagnetic means, because your whole nervous system can be hijacked as it is a set of, let's say, cables that work with current. And then you then right now is the technology that doesn't allow me to complete the sentence, but I'm going to, yeah, I wanted to connect the DSM-5. Yeah, so we have autism not as an illness, not as, let's say, something that is bad. It's not a disability either. Autism can be sometimes classified in different ways. There are different kinds of autism with totally different symptoms. But what it means to be an autistic person, let's say in the case of Elon Musk, that at that time they would call it Asperger's, now they call it autism 1, is simply to be maladapted. You are maladapted to an English speaking culture, then they will call you autistic. So everyone who doesn't follow the social norms that are implicit, by default, you should not follow anything that is implicit unless you want or you don't want, because it's implicit. Explicit rules, like the rule of law, the norms that you will see in signs in a coffee shop or something like that, those are the ones that you should. But implicit rules, by the free will, your freedom, just for the sake of being a human, is not something that you should follow, unless you are in a kind of implicit kind of dictatorship or implicit autocracy in which you cannot simply say anything literal, because otherwise someone might be pissed off that you speak with truth. Then you have to keep it always kind of not real, hidden, etc. But then check that Elon Musk, yeah, he's called autistic, whatever, yeah, but he has no disability whatsoever. He actually has been able to dominate several fields, and it's impressive. It's someone that I admire, not precisely because he doesn't give a shit for many things. Obviously, he does a lot of mistakes, but it's someone that I admire cognitive, because he was able to dominate, especially linguistically, structurally, and also dynamically. I'm talking about behaviors. So the fields of business, the fields of politics, the fields of technically everything that is related with anything that is related with leadership as deployment of information, yeah. And he also dominates the field of means of communication, yeah, because he is not buying TV channels, radio. No, he's actually going for the big, the big piece of pie or whatever. And then he has been able to dominate also the linguistic field of engineering, linguistic field, or technically the field of defense, and that includes the state-of-the-art technologies. And he has been able to even start to define what is the field of the meaning of humanity. And that's impressive. That's unseen. He is not Nikola Tesla. He is not Henry Ford. He is not John Rockefeller. He is not Isaac Newton. He is not Stephen Hawking. He's a new kind of cliche that humanity will have, yeah, and that's unseen. And there you go. That's an autistic person, yeah, maladapted, yeah. So where you are adapted because just you submit to a set of rules, you submit to a hierarchy, you submit to an order, even if the order doesn't make sense, you submit to a set of rules, you submit to a competition, sorry. You submit to a competition in which you will never win because you are competing with everyone. And then, here we have Elon Musk, blue ocean strategy, and he creates his own structure. He excels in all the fields, and he surrounded the world with satellites. So, yeah, that's him. Yeah, maladapted person. Yeah, because he did not submit to what was there. He creates something new. Maladapted. Now we have to adapt to him. Yeah. Now, then we have that. I will also watch, UFC, Islamic State. For some reason, the AI wants to push me the word Daesh, and I know that there is a difference between Islamic State and Daesh, which people though is not aware, but this is a political distinction. I forgot it. I won't go there because I know that the AI wants me to use it, to use Daesh, but we, where we are, especially in the English speaker world, we know it as Islamic State. But there is a political distinction, yeah? Something, one side recognizes something that the other no, and this is important. But I just point what the vectors and AI is trying to lead, yeah? So then, yeah, the prompt at that time, it will be also related with also this kind of long wolf story. So I know they try different things. I will also see things like knives pushing in my feet, and let's say crazy things violently happening in the United States with guns and something like that. So they probably try to push me to buy a gun, and yeah, that will be constantly. So they will push me also different weaponry that will exist. I'm not related with it. It's not something. Do you think I'm more interested in the engineering of how let's say a rifle AK-47 will work or something like that? Just the engineering part, because it's actually quite complex. So a Kalashnikov, yeah, that guy, regardless of making a machine like that, he was a kind of genius. And more is interested in that part. But also when you play video games, you know about certain kind of weaponry, because yeah, it's this kind of weaponry that is real too. But I never pay attention to it. It's not what I would like to know. It's not something that is in my interest. But they will push that. Different kinds of guns, different kinds of weaponry, and different kinds of also videos in which war will appear. But maybe, the companies will say, no, but maybe that happens because he likes to know history about war. But this is the situation. A person like me will will know, or will try to know, or will try to, I mean, the fields. I mean, if you seek my history online, I do believe there are not none, or maybe a few fields that I have not go into in my life. I mean, I have to go into every single field that could exist, because I think that's part of being a human. That's part of exploring. Yeah, exploring is not just going to Mars, or maybe you live in an island, go and conquer the world. Exploring is also to understand what is around you. Yeah. So I don't know. I can show you my desk. I'm just telling you about many things, like perhaps this is a controller from Xbox. I know how these joysticks work, yeah, and I know that it has gyroscopes, perhaps, and I know that there are different kinds of technology chips. We have I know how, let's say, the system for earphones work, which is the same as the speaker. Then we have, let's say, this kind of material that is a kind of fiber, and these require certain machines. And I've seen the evolution of these machines from the Industrial Revolution to the nowadays state of the art, that is printing technology for clothing. We have here something else in which we have a meter. The meter is a standard, but in United States measurement, yeah, the meter, gram, and well, the AI doesn't allow me to tell, but okay. So we have the standard measurement for the industrial, uh, let's say, world, in which nowadays everyone uses. But again, the AI is stopping. So this is plastic. I received a few classes of It's material science, so plastics in itself, according with the professor, could take, I don't know, your whole life trying to learn just that field. Yeah, plastics alone is a super complex thing. And then yeah, we have my pilot books, etc. So I'm someone who can talk about everything and anything and with anyone. You you meet, okay, I can meet a physician, I can speak with that person. With a mathematician, I can speak with that person. With a doctor, with a biologist, with an astronomer, with someone who studies sacred scripts. I can speak with a geologist, meteorologist, and anything that is related with social science, etc., etc. That's who I am. That's who I always been. Then, why people like me is target? Because we produce a lot of information digitally, a fingerprints. Because we get a lot of contacts from everywhere with different fields. It's not just a cluster. We become the center of a cluster. Yeah. Then it's easy in a social cluster, let's say. Then it's easy for, let's say, evil intelligence services that want to start to do, I don't know, an operation to promote a policy that then will lead to war. It's easy to target people like me using this state of the art cover technology, because if they are successful in using us to do something that they were trying to do, like me, let's say doing a terrorist attack or doing a terror act or creating terror in society or creating something devastating as was the Bondi massacre, in which 6 people died, a baby got injured, then they are able to change the policy, let's say in my case, not just from Australia, United States, New Zealand. They could have relayed that to uh, Israel, and they could have also changed the, yeah, so we have Colombia, Israel, New Zealand, Australia, United States, even Europe. Yeah. And let's say in Colombia, I met people who was in the Youth Communist Party. Yeah, obviously they will have appeared, or they will appear in my contacts, whether that's Facebook or my phone. Yeah, I don't speak with them since I moved here, just a couple of times, because when I applied for my refugee visa, I was told that I require a letter just to prove that I went out with them to protesting. But no, I'm talking about rallies on the street, not in violence. I was the person that will stop the people damaging the churches. Yeah, I will stop people with masks damaging the churches, because I never agree that vandalism should be when you are protesting. Yeah, you are rallying, but it doesn't mean that you have to damage such beautiful architecture. Yeah, so then, but it doesn't matter what they're gonna collect. I remember another time I was filmed in a protest in Colombia, just putting gloves, white gloves, to the shields of uh, the anti-disturbs policemen, and they were telling me, "We support your cause, we support your cause, but my commander is here, so just put the glove, but maybe, uh, yeah, just do it quick, yeah. But I support your cause." I remember that we were able to put the gloves with my friends, and then the commander came and exploded all the gloves. These were like white kind of gloves, that the ones that you blow, and then yeah, like a symbol of peace, because it's an act of non-violence. It's not confrontational, but it's actually the shield of them, which in Colombia are usually seen as the ones who attack the people, and the shield of the anti-disturbs, yeah, like let's say mob controlled police or whatever. yeah, it's telling you, we support your cause. Yeah, we agree, but we have to do this. They will sometimes say to me, um, yeah, we couldn't have the chance to study. We know that you are students, but I didn't have the chance to study. I remember one of them told me, and, then it obviously for me always was important to study in this situation, knowing, uh, and then these persons with the shield, and they all agree, technically allowing me to do that, and I was, a guy who will have long hair, metal head. Also, they will easily recognize that I was friendly. Let's say the metalheads would have not the kind of stigma that they would have in the United States or in Australia. United States and Australia are totally different in the metal culture, and Colombia too. In Colombia, they are seen as hippies, but they are sometimes seen as, let's say, people who can walk around other violent person. Let's say if you are seeing a lot of, let's say you go on the street, there is a lot of homeless, there is a lot of potential people who could rob you, or people who look dodgy and they might steal your belongings or something. They will steal everyone but a metalhead. Yeah. Why? I don't know. Yeah, but that's a reality. So then it's a way also that, I don't know, you blend with everything because, no, you are a hippie, you are a loser, whatever. Yeah. Also, music is one of the best expressions, and rock is the epitome of the music for freedom. Yeah, energy, screaming, do whatever you want, say whatever you want. Yeah, it's not restricted or contained, but actually is the maximum expression of it, music-wise. Now, so it's easy to take, let's say, 3 points of information and say, look, this guy did this, and we have this information for which we can connect this guy doing this. But they obviate 1 million pieces. They just take 3. Because the information that people like me produces is just mind-blowing. It's huge. Our digital fingerprint is mind-blowing. Yeah? People will not believe, hey, why are you, I don't know, it's like Da Vinci. Why are you looking at how the tone of a bird should look like, okay? Why are you trying to, I don't know, why are you trying to extend the field of quantum mechanics? Look, I was 17 in the university studying electrical engineering, and I was already understanding the mechanics of the particles accelerator between France and Switzerland. Yeah, we were already learning how chips work. I mean, this is totally unrelated with my career. I was already learning how the chips work, how neural networks work, how the firmware, the firmware of the firmware of a phone will work like. At that time, there was not Android, and it was only Apple, and every single of the brands of phones will have their own firmware, and so you could download firmwares and so on. I was also learning hacking, uh, social engineering, the kind of social engineering that you will use in hacking. Never exploited that. I used it 3 times probably. Okay, that's how it works. I never got into that anymore. Then, yeah, many fields. Yeah, So then the fingerprint that we can produce is a lot. But now if intelligence services are using that because we are just useful people for operations in which they could lead someone who doesn't have enough information how to navigate, let's say, saying these kind of technologies that should make look the people insane, then they would, if they are successful, the person will eventually commit something super stupid and die at the spot. Then the information that they will produce will be something in the media, will be spread to other countries, and they will develop whatever purpose they want it as a policy. Remember, right now I'm studying national security policy, so it's more clear how these kind of situations work. And we are in Australia. Australia is a place that uh, is a colony, I would say. It's not a state as a colony, but I feel here as a kind of slave, knowing that they are using this state-of-the-art technology in which, as I say, right now they are allowing me to talk, but if I just turn off the camera, I will start to hear high-pitched sounds straight away, and then I will go again into this kind of enhanced interrogation mode, in which I will have voices not guiding, but as well just pushing, repetition, inculcation, this kind of uh, conditioning in which they start to tell you certain words that you should take in certain ways, so they just explore in which way you take the word, and with that they work out something else to lead you to a place. It's quite sophisticated. It can be reverse engineered, but it will take me a whole video just to do that. But this is probably already so fine that they technically should know by now when I do new connections in my brain, departing from the scanners that were done in a study that I participate, probably a part of a PsyOp as well. Because since I don't have schizophrenia, the data that they will have in the schizophrenia research will be contaminated. When I got into the Swinburne University, one of the proofs of that is that the council put me a fine because I parked more than the time that I should have parked. So then the fine should be there as a proof that I was there. In the days I was doing the study, the university was almost empty, but these couple of machines that are not anywhere but just at least in that building, at least in the southern hemisphere, are there in that university. Then, yeah, so Australia in a special situation. Australia cannot decide over their army because their army is technically UK. UK is I don't even know how UK works, but is the kind of, yeah, well, the United Kingdom. The kingdom then have, I would say, colonies like Australia. I don't know how it's Canada and New Zealand. Never been there, but it seems not, yeah, an option, but maybe a subtle kind of force that Australians can, let's say, exert over their army, because at the end, this should be coming from the army, this technology. So then, more likely, the headquarters should be in UK, but as well, since the UK tried to keep their colonies and they failed to do so during the Second World War and before it. Also during the Cold War, then Australia couldn't defend itself, for which that allowed the entrance of troops from US, and now there are several US troops here. Australia has never been attacked, so now US wants to do a kind of base here for missiles. Strategic for them, not for Australia. It's like making Australia a target? No. I mean, strategically, why you will go to social place far away that is not even treating anyone, and you come here and you know people is nice, there are kangaroos, and why you will want to, I don't know, why this is strategically a place that you would like to attack in a war. Nah, actually, yeah, no. Let's say, and we are talking about China, yeah, because United States talks about the China threat, but we have no, I mean, studying national security policy, at least myself, it is not clear what is the China threat, yeah, the China threat, because in my perspective, I'm being attacked by the West. For me, US is the threat against myself. Why? Because it's apparently US that creates this anti-terrorist stuff. Then they target me as if I was a terrorist to push me so I could do terrorism, but they failed to do so, and because it's US policy, which is supported by UK, who is the Australian army. And it's technically these two armies. It's not the decision option necessarily for Australia, but at that time was have a prime minister from UK as well, Tony Abbott. So he was fine to follow, I don't know, this kind of ideologically Machiavellic stuff that there is a master who is powerful, just follow the master, stay under the wing, and we're gonna do terrorism, let's do it. We're gonna turn back the boats, let's do it. We're gonna create concentration camps in the islands that we don't use to do more experiments with people, let's do it. Yeah. And technically what that was the time I applied for the refugee visa, and they were okay, we can use one person that strategically serve our purposes instead of the Australian culture. It's like, look, Australia, I want to do so many things, so many books that I haven't written, so much art that I could contribute for Australia, so many beautiful social theories that could be helping the world right now coming from Australia, but I've been hindered to do that. But because it's more strategically to give me a short life, kill me in the way that they will be pushed to kill more people, so they can push this kind of anti-immigration, anti-refugees policy, etc. Because that was the time I applied for the refugee visa, and Tony Abbott was in power, and that is technically the UK's doctrine, who is the commander of our army, whose boss also is the United States. Yeah. So then, yeah, I'm attacked for defending democracy, for protecting democracy, for believing in liberal values, for not getting in trouble, for always following uh, the law, the rule of law, or respecting the institutionality, for always try to avoid problems, for try to fix problems instead to create problems. You see what is the situation here? It's like this is the definition of what values are we defending right now. Yeah. And right now we don't know who is in that Epstein list as well. Remember that in Second World War, Hitler, who was the one starting the wars, was a pedophile. So he just probably asked to one of his mates, hey, bring me one 17 years old girl, because I want to sleep with her. And they brought to him Eva Braun, and she was a child. And he was a pedophile eventually. Berlusconi was caught in the same situation. Yeah, and And well, are we fighting wars again for pedophiles? Because the first time I got targeted, and according with Elon Musk, Donald Trump is in the Epstein list. And since I got targeted during the first period of Donald Trump, I got into my medication with the diagnosis of schizophrenia. I have not taken my medication for 2 months, so I guess I don't know what's gonna happen next because I'm not gonna follow this kind of theater in which reality is not there. If I allow that, it will be betraying humanity because I will allow as well not having a precedent in which humans will not be free but have to submit like in a George Orwell, the 1884 kind of novel. Then during the time I was recovering the Joe Biden presidency, I was able to study. The voices were not there. They only will appear when I go to the toilet. But as soon as Donald Trump got elected, I start to have again problems. And the day the bombs explode in Lebanon, they tried to do another operation, but they couldn't again. Instead, again discovered it. And since then, I'm not able to read. I'm able only to record these videos. I'm able to talk with people and have certain kind of interactions. I still experiment certain things. There are the intelligence community. I don't know anything about how it works. What are the manuals? What are the procedures? But I know that a lot of people from the intelligence community has been trying to contact me or give a kind of manifestation, but it's still given the nature of secrecy and duality, then yeah, I mean, it's not like in the movies that someone comes here with a huge, I don't know, gabardine or with a huge kind of, lawn suit jacket. I forgot the name of that. And then with a mustache, glasses, and a hat, and they come to you and say, "Oh, yeah, this is the situation, whatever." No, nowadays everything seems to work as well in ways in which they will use this technology, subtle communication, everything like that. But you are leading. That's what they. You are dealing with an autistic person who has to decode that in order to make it useful. Yeah, but at the same time, what I notice is that decoding that and using it drags me into that, and there is a way in which you cannot get out of those situations because a few of the forces, social forces like corruption, work like a black hole in which you'll be attracted to it, but once you are in, you cannot get out. Yeah, these are dynamics. These are like, let's say, one-way doors, doors that only allow entrance, but no, you cannot leave. And yeah, that has been, let's say, one of the things that I have had clear, and that's why, let's say, the situation in the world is so dangerous that we will need a system of pardoning, a correction, because all this situation comes to be informational. Yeah, we are repeating violent behaviors, and the repetition through generations, violent behaviors that are institutionalized manuals of violence, of war, that become the war for the sake of war, war for the sake of power, power for the sake of power, become informational virus that kill humanity itself in order to power, to create more war, win, more dominance, more power, resources. And then we place the economy and instrumentalize it in that way that simply we take as externalities something like climate change, the death of people, the targeting of people like me. Yeah, then the meaning of the system, the meaning of the economic system, the meaning of capitalism is not only to make one society better off, but it has moved to only expand, consume, and produce, to a side quest of conquering land, conquering governments, and then dominance by technological means. But nowadays we're having a transition in which the economic system is reaching a tipping point in which humans cannot consume as much. So then we are producing fake illnesses like schizophrenia, in which people will just consume medication, damage their bodies, create other kind of illnesses, and we consume faster. And this kind of use of neuroweapons that are covered in the long term becomes one of the most addictive things for power if they are not made public. And because we are just growing the GDP, then whatever it takes to grow the GDP becomes the goal, because if we are too efficient, we cannot consume that fast, so we have to speed up consumption. We cannot speed up consumption, no one will buy the things that we are producing, and then we create economies that are centered about consumption, and without growing and consuming more, there is no way that the GDP will grow. We have to produce more, consume more, otherwise it's impossible to grow the GDP. And because the growing of the GDP is the most important thing, nowadays with AI, then becomes a kind of solution to create AI, because we can focus a part of the economy to grow the GDP into creating more sources of energy, creating more sources of hardware, software, manpower for power up the AI, and using the powered AI to create digital economies in which bots, or what is called agentic AI, will use uh, economics in which then they will consume more than humans. Then technically this is about creating a bot that pays, let's say, um, data services to store information. Let's say in Amazon, it can store or power up itself in another, let's say, company that pays for keep the bot running, and that bot can produce a company in itself that is a website selling internet, like let's say doing videos or making scams in crypto. And then we will have this kind of AIs in which they live in between the ecosystem. Yeah. So then we will have an AI that keep itself alive because it's paying the bills for data storage, data processing, and getting money for pay those bills through through creating new services that might be even supported by other bots. So this AI can check, okay, what is the market here between other bots, bots. So then I could maybe, I don't know, offer software services, and then I use one of the main AI companies, and the bot will know how to program that to redirect that economy, etc. And what's the problem with that? That if we are growing the GDP using a fake economy, an economy that will move certain money in certain ways in which they consumes hardware, software, etc. by itself organically, then there is a point in which the economy is not consumer or consumption production center, but then will become machine center. It means that at some stage, 51% of the total economy in the world will be managed by robots. Then it will be impossible for humans to reverse that. Yeah, because the whole economic system, because think about that. People talk about the system, but no one knows what is the system. Yeah, but the system is made of many systems. But the simplest way to recognize the system, the mega structure, whatever system, if you go to any planet and there is any developed civilization, the way to recognize their system is to follow the flow of information. Yeah, is to follow the economy. Economy, let's say, you can identify the human, yeah, as a system. Then you will need to follow the bloodstream and see if the human is doing exercise, then it will release certain kinds like, I don't know, cortisol, adrenaline, testosterone, whatever. And then that will tell the system what the system is doing, because the flow of information. Then it creates an economy in which that burns energy, and the burning energy creates a type of histamine that then will create tiredness. Yeah, and then you start to have these kinds of interactions in a system. Yeah, after the tiredness is done, then the person starts to rest, and that allows the repairment of whatever was broken during the exercise, etc. And what you are looking at is the economy, an interchange of things. So if you want to see the interchange of what's going on in the current system, in the current capitalist system, then it's going towards that. Yeah. And the worst thing is, like, people like me is attack every day. I cannot sleep. They don't allow me to sleep as much as I could. They wake me up usually at 3:30, 5, 7:30. The days that they don't want me to wake up, they just don't allow me to wake up. And one day I remember that I was doing this philosophy of liberation course online in Argentina. I went to every single class every day. I'm someone who never fails a class, but just recently that I've been attacked a lot. Let's say I did my bachelor without losing one single class. Yeah, 3 years. It means no class with single. But that's who I am. I love to learn. And but nowadays, since they have attacking me more, I have missed a few classes, but I remember that specific class because whilst I was doing my bachelor, I was doing as well a diploma of the philosophy of liberation, and they did not allow me to finish the last assignments, the last module assignment, and because I was attacked by the neuro weapons, and I couldn't go to the last class in which the great philosopher Enrique Dussel would have been there. So it could have been great to see him online, but this is the kind of situation that this technology is doing. It's a kind of cybernetic managing. Also, nowadays it has become even more difficult because I'm dying because they are degenerating my brain. Every single time I'm not with anyone, they push me. I don't know how specifically they do it, but they stimulate a part of my brain in which I have to reply to the voices, and they trigger me, and these voices come every single 1, 2 or 3 seconds. And usually it's around 1 second, and you voice once and over again, once and over again. And I'm supposed to keep talking. And I know that these talks can be subtract, and can be readable. Yeah, super easy with 5G. This 5G is a really fine kind of signal that can work technically as a sonar, in which simply you get the electrobiological fingerprint of the neurological networks of the brain. You can decode what the person is talking because it's by words. But I used to not think by words. They simply kind of develop a technique in which a person starts to talk, and then they know what kind of uh, they know what kind of neurological cluster of circuit trigger that is related with that part of this language, and then you just continue talking, and that means that I'm doing synapses the whole time in my brain, and that degenerates the brain. Yeah, because you are, I mean, if you have muscles, I cannot do this kind of movement for my whole life. I have to stop at some stage. Yeah, and if I stop, I have to stop enough time to recover, and I'm not sleeping as much as I could. Yeah, because they sometimes allow me. Yesterday night I was able to sleep 5 hours. Sometimes I cannot sleep because they don't allow me, and it feels that they are stimulating my brain. Let's say sometimes I try to sit and do these videos, and I start to have so much lethargy that I fall asleep. But as soon as I fall asleep, they wake me up. Then I go to my bed, I try to sleep, but then they stimulate me to stay awake. So they also only allow you, let's say, to be tired or to be awake strategically, but it's going towards degenerating your brain, which is the same as dying. Yeah, I'm dying slowly. And yeah, it's disastrous because it's a kind of it's a killing, yeah. And also that means that there is a strategy, and you could decode what is. In the end, I will die, and the persons who are doing this know that they are killing me for whatever purpose they have. So I think it's not worth it whatever they do. That's why I think they should not. I mean, yeah, that's why the person who see any movie about me, any news, any kind of production that is mainstream should know that it's a piece of propaganda to watch your brain. That's the most important thing or piece of information that I can give you for the future. Every single time you see a kind of mass production that is popular, that is pushed by the mainstream services or whatever, that's a piece of propaganda designed to brainwash. Yeah? You should be watching these videos around other kinds of situations, but always using your capacity to discern, your capacity for free thinking, your capacity for critical thinking, your capacity to simply uh, find the truth among the haystack. So it means that you have to shift, you have to seek information to find the truth. Yeah. So, and you must know that simply I put this in YouTube. Intelligent intelligence services know, and you must know if and kill and overtly I the public doesn't know about what happened to me. I mean, if I don't become public, uh, or I'm dead, and then this becomes public, is because they were expecting that the whole time. I will be successful if I become public, once the whole situation becomes public. Yeah, but otherwise they want to do just another piece of propaganda by killing someone and taking the information that they want to put it outside. Yeah, this is the same thing that is happening to me. People like me that like to learn and is curious, finding a lot of subjects from all the kind of, let's say, possible ways that you could find as a human, or the possible ways that you could experience yourself as a human, then are targets because we produce a lot of information. Yeah, then they just take the information that they want magnified, presented as a propaganda, presented as an evidence for whatever bullshit they want to create, and then they obviate the other million pieces. Yeah. So also, let's say if there is any video, I don't know, like, or let's say one of the things that I have seen recently is that a lot of leaders in the world are starting to have tongue slips, like Freudian tongue slips. These are more likely induced words. Yeah, these Freudian tongue slips are induced words, and that's easy to check. Also, people that is not aware of when they have these Freudian tongue slips, especially when speaking, then they might become aware, as I did, because it happens to me that these I was being certain words when I was doing certain speeches in public. I don't know if they were filmed or not, but I do believe they would certainly place one or two words in such a way that, yeah, maybe I will watch myself. Maybe I will brainwash myself that it was myself who say that words consciously. But that's the situation when you are not totally aware of what you are saying the whole time. That you might think that is spontaneous, that it happens right there, and that it serves because it's you trusting yourself. No, what happens that is induced, and then you start to create rationalizations out of that. As I just say, this technology now is not putting one word, two, it's just full 10 sentences. And so, and yet, so yeah, someone could say the wrong word in the wrong place, and then they can neurotarget that person. And I know that Australia, let's say, is a colony because most of the intelligence services, or the people must have this kind of technology in them for security purposes, whatever, where because they consent or they did not consent, but then it means that they are not free. Yeah. So most of the intelligence services of Australia, I do believe they are not free. Yeah. They must be in a kind of situation in which they will be kind of supervised by a kind of thought police. Yeah, because this is thought police. And again, you go to the street, all these things happening, people cannot see anything. The reality that I experience obviously is not experienced by no one else. You could see that the people who has been called the target individuals, they all have been diagnosed with mental illness, but this is part of a manual in which a label, a symbol, the imposition of a label, a symbol, the imposition of the meaning of the symbol and the control of the symbol, and then makes a person or normalizes a person to be isolated, to be in a condition of being human that is close to being kind of inhuman. Yeah. And let's say, remember that Australia was a place that was founded by convicts that came in a fleet by the Imperial Army. Then the Imperial Army was always supervising this kind of convicts. Then the convicts start to get some perks. They were always allowed to kill aboriginals, so they were always allowed to rape and aboriginals. So the convicts will feel satisfied always because Australia will always have a kind of subhuman kind of species or society. And then you have the creation, and you have the Imperial Army that today is the Australian Army, led by UK, and that kind of changed through history. That's one field, and it changed through history, and is nowadays what it is. And we have the pyramid of kind of convicts. They say that the tall poppies, yeah, cut the tall poppies, but this is just one field. This is just the field of the convicts. Yeah, the convicts, they supposed to not be, you know, too high or whatever, show up because they are cut, like literally cut. So they have to accommodate in certain way. Then this field of convicts then becomes a hierarchical structure of convicts in which some of them will have more perks, some of them will have more money, some of them will have a better quality of life, but no one is free. Yeah, all of them have to, let's say, follow a kind of symbolic submission, double speak situation. They cannot be extrovert. They cannot be free. They cannot be free thinkers. They have to walk in eggshells. This panopticon Foucault situation in which you will be judged, or otherwise everyone is judging someone else, and we all feel included because we are judging someone else. It's not the whole society, yeah, but it seems to be the most common and familiar kind of language that everyone has. So it's difficult to break away from these spells unless you have power, and it means control of the media, the social media, the telecommunications, but as well the convicts create a kind of hierarchy. But the convicts always have a subhuman category. These were the aboriginals, yeah? The aboriginals will be less developed, they will have less rights. If they were paid, they will always pay lesser. Nowadays, this kind of racism is institutionalized because by law you have to declare or not declare, but there is always something that says, hey, are you Aboriginal or Torres Islander? Then you have a different treatment by law. So you have to tick if you are Aboriginal or not, and this different treatment by racial division institutionalized racism. People will say, no, but the Aboriginals doesn't want to work, doesn't want to whatever. Most of the Aboriginals, I mean, in Northern Territory, and Northern Territory is a place that has lesser rights than most of the states. And if you think about that, even lesser rights than many countries and many places around the Pacific, institutionally wise, because Australia does not have a Bill of Rights. Australia does not have a Bill of Rights, a Chart of Rights. And let's say if you're in the Australian Army, you're an Australian doing this to me, they can tell you this is legal. Tell me when in the Constitution this is illegal, and they have no place to point, because simply they might say, maybe the state might say this, or they don't know where to point to the international conventions, but that's what happens usually. Me as a refugee, they doing this to me means that they have already broken the UN accords post-war in which refugees have the right to be protected. And maybe they thought that it was more advantageous for them just to speed my visa, give an aneurysm to my girlfriend, and put me in a mental health hospital. Or well, before that, try to psych up me to kill people, but it didn't work eventually. And I went to the hospital, and nowadays I'm in this situation, yeah? So, let's say it feels that they can, well, okay, let's say, depending on what I do, what I think, or what I say in my mind, then I start to have signs, such as, let's say, it seems like a kind of approval. They will push pain in my thumb, left thumb or right thumb. Sometimes, let's say, if I say something that is kind of belligerent, they will. It feels that they will kind of signal a kind of pain in the tip of my feet. Like it's a kind of, you are kicking with the right or you are kicking with the left or something like that. Yeah, there are even kinds of gestures of appreciation. Sometimes it feels that they create a kind of quality of, they make you feel that you have some kind of, let's say, feeling sensation around the heart. Yeah. And they can manage your pulse as well. So sometimes my pulse rises in situations that shouldn't rise. And it's technically me having communication with a machine. But again, how this communication develops, it will take another whole video, yeah, because the models changed. And I know by fact that some of the communication with these machines can be hidden between me, because I can be hidden by me and the machine. I know because it will be impossible for a human to recognize that, no matter what the interface. Is impossible for them unless they have the same conceptual map in my brain, because it's not expressed by words, but it's a kind of language that is developed between the machine and the person that yeah, they, I don't know, in my case, I don't know, yeah, they enslave or target, etc. Yeah, so I deviate as always from the subject, but yeah, coming back, let's rewind. I was seeing before, it was already 2019, I think. They were, yeah, when I went to the hospital in Melbourne, mm, they will push the UFC, violence, Islamic State, a lot of violence of animals, killing animals, like a lot. They will push mm, a lot of, let's say, kind of, yeah, situations in which, or let's say accidents. Mm, yeah, a lot of kind of politics that will be extreme, and I think they will try to see in which way I will go somewhere, and then they will try to exploit that. A lot of things related with narco traffic as well, and yeah, all this kind of stuff. Yeah, but. Hmm, yeah, they weren't able to do it anyway, but I was able to decode that, especially when I started to see, oh fuck, the Islamic State. Oh, I'm in a situation in which technically I'm isolated. This is like a lone wolf situation. So it is happening. But also I was not violent. If I follow a kind of philosophy, is radical humanism, which is not a philosophy necessarily. It's a framework for humans to live, in which you could create a system, but it's a framework. It's not a set of rules. It's not an ideology with a set of fixed beliefs or assumptions. It's more a kind of situation for humans, by humans, based on human nature. So it doesn't have to be black and white. And the radical part is always recognizing each other as humans. Yeah, which opens the door not to have radically opens the door precisely to not have a rigid mindset of what a human can be or could be. So then, yeah, it's a human framework. So then we have the situation of the virus that is the violence behavior that gets institutionalized, and then the human life is the value, and then this is the value, the human life makes the system have not purpose at all because it's guided by humans but not for humans, so there is no purpose. Then in the long term become a kind of human center, machine center uh, system, because the economic system will be managed by machines. So they will manage most of the funds. So at some stage, machines will say what to humans to do, so they can do whatever they need to do. Yeah, and we will be making tasks like, perhaps, I don't know, we need to add more energy to this kind of data centers and GPUs, because we are having a lot of demand, and we don't know that this demand is created by machines themselves, not by humans. Then the virus of violence that becomes institutionalized, that becomes also recurrent history, as people say, we don't know where work started or finished, has different ways in which it can be simply extinguished. And that's related with consciousness, and that's also related with opposing this kind of trend in which humans are more micro-controlled, because this is not the new world order, this is the new micro-controlling order. So we are talking about the new micro-controlling order as the system in which biological beings are micro-controlled by technological means. So then consciousness is one of the things that we could do, just to say, oh, this is happening to me, I don't want this, I was born free, I'm not a machine, I'm conscious. Yeah. So then, yeah, why this is happening to me, why this is happening to my society, then why should I stand this, why should I resign to stop to be a human, and why should I oppose that, given that I don't want that the future will be a future in which humans are not conscious, because it is leading to the automatization of humans. Humans seeing the same symbols, humans doing the same thing, humans following into the same meanings of what is a reality, humans in having confusion, humans not interpreting reality, humans not understanding anything of what's going on around, humans not having privacy, when the human nature, what we, it's like, I don't know, 10,000 years in which we have always have privacy in our minds biologically, and suddenly we don't have it. So then this is the betrayal of humanity, because we start to be slowly dominated by a machine. So devices become smaller and closer to us every time to time. Yeah. And then they're gonna be eventually inside us, and they're gonna control us and hijack our biological circuits, electrobiological circuits. And one way in which we can manage that is through consciousness, because we become conscious. We create, maybe for the first time, a conscious civilization, a conscious system. Yeah. In which the system decides where to go, instead of organically just develop like a virus. And then in that way we can create another system that is not the capitalist system, that simply consumes, assumes that the human is rational, but is so irrational that actually the humans start to be controlled by machines, stimulated by hunger if it needs to consume something to eat, stimulated by sex if it wants to spend or do a crime or buy some sex-like products or consume any kind of media, or in the future maybe consume robots, etc. Then the human becomes mechanized because it's not a decision for the humans anymore when, how to consume, what to be. Then the being born as someone without change and being born having the possibility to be anything is already, let's say, taken out from the human experience. Then the free will of, from which we are born is eliminated, as we are not having free will because we are not conscious. If we don't know that we're gonna die, if we don't know that we are capable of develop our brains, if we don't know the rate in which we create the skills, if we are not allowed to concentrate, to focus, because there is an attention economy in which we are hijacked without consent to consume, then it takes away the free will. Then free will ceases to exist, and then we start to have these conversations about naive uh, philosophers saying, do we have free will or not? Maybe not, because this bullshit, the other. No, simply we assert that we have free will, we create a society that will have free will. Because philosophy is politics, philosophy is not science. Science will tell you, oh, maybe what Daniel is saying is wrong, because to prove it, he needs to reproduce it in a lab, and he cannot point to historical examples, he cannot point to dynamics that might seem plausible by sociological tools, because if this is not replicable in an experiment, it's not science. Then it's not, if it's not science, it's not true. It's not true. And then what Daniel says is it's not true. Then, but that's the point. Philosophy is politics. Yeah. If I say we cannot prove that there is no consciousness, we cannot prove that there is not free will, then we're not gonna have free will. And there is, philosophers with PhD putting this outside, talking about these things. And well, maybe it's the accreditation that gives them the authority to talk about that, but not the knowledge, not the debate, not the arguments. Then what they are is simply reproducing the system, informatical system. And when we talk about being in a simulation, free will, and consciousness, we have to remind that if we are conscious, it's our free will talking about our free will, therefore it will be biased. It's our consciousness talking about the consciousness, so it will be biased. And if we are in a simulation, it's like then we already give away whatever, let's say, possibility of freedom. Yeah, so it's not even something to talk about. Then, yeah, naive philosophers with PhD, you know. But that's the point of philosophy, it's political. Okay, that's Anna Arendt's works. Yeah. Okay, I think this was a long video, almost double than the others. But one way, so we have the virus as a problem that is informatically the repetition of behavior, informatic reproduction of information in structures. This can be, I mean, this is not the sole solution, yeah, and there are many, but this can be simply managed by consciousness, So the capitalist system becomes a system that is a human framework, not just surrounded about the economy, and it's possible if they fucking stop to neuro-target people like me, yeah? Because obviously you find people like me from which they can, I don't know, if 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 Da Vinci comes here and he used the internet, then you will see, oh fuck, he's looking at dead people, pregnant women that are opened up with fetuses inside, and he's actually making, I don't know, he's actually looking at vaginas. He seems to be gay or queer. We don't know if he paints girls or women. Uh, it's Da Vinci's now into horses, into bronze status. He's probably making spades or some guns, whatever. And then he's doing really weird searches of every single kind of subject: mechanics, biology, literature, art, yeah, painting, old people, young people. Like he's a demon. So he's just in every single fucking field that we're gonna use it for a psyop. Yeah, we can take this to say that he's that, and we present it in that way, and in that way we create policy. Yeah, the Western world. It's like, imagine Socrates comes today. Yeah, Socrates was killed because he was corrupting the souls of the young, but at that time Greece was dominated by the barbarians, the Ottoman Empire. So the Ottoman Empire beat the Greeks, and and the Ottoman Empire, the Ottomans, forced the suicide of Socrates. Yeah, and nowadays in this civilization, we are like yeah, we try to be Romans, we try to philosophy, science, the Socratic method. We are so proud of, yeah, being, I don't know, thinkers, freedom, the police, the laws, yeah, and and then we cannot look back and see what does that mean, yeah. Then is ourselves crucifying Jesus Christ, ourselves killing Socrates, ourselves invading and yeah, burning the Da Vinci works and not allowing them to be for the future, but kind of hiding them, yeah, because instead of his status, instead of his, let's say, bronze artworks, we prefer the metal of the artworks because it's most useful to use the bronze for the spades. And then we have China talking about the Pandora box for the first time. That's a Western myth that China is now shaping. Okay, I gotta leave. Someone is ringing.